Imagine risking your life to capture Billy the Kid, only to have the governor refuse to pay your reward. This actually happened to Pat Garrett, the lawman who finally took down a notorious outlaw. While Hollywood portrays bounty hunters as glamorous heroes with hefty paydays, historical reality was brutally different. Most real fugitive hunters earned minimal compensation while enduring constant danger, navigating legal uncertainties, and facing public contempt. These forgotten figures weren't celebrated stars, but desperate individuals working on a thankless profession. The stark contrast between cinematic fantasy and historical truth reveals why the actual life of a bounty hunter was far from the adventure many people imagine today. Before continuing, hit subscribe to stay up to date on our latest videos. When we think of bounty hunters in the Wild West, our minds often conjure images of Clint Eastwood in For a Few Dollars More, squinting into the distance before claiming his prize. Or perhaps we see Boba Fett from Star Wars, the stoic masked mercenary tracking his quarry across the galaxy. These powerful cultural icons have shaped our understanding of what it meant to hunt fugitives for money in America's frontier era. What if I told you this legendary image is merely a product of mid-century fiction? The term bounty hunter didn't even exist during the actual Wild West period. Not a single newspaper account, diary entry, or official document from the 1800s uses this now familiar phrase. The real fugitive trackers of the 1800s looked nothing like these fictional creations. Historical records show they were primarily lawmen operating within the formal justice system. Take the case of Deputy Marshal Bass Reeves, who tracked fugitives across Indian territory for 3 decades. Unlike his Hollywood counterparts, Reeves meticulously documented his captures, submitted detailed expense reports, and always attempted to bring suspects in alive for proper legal proceedings. Private detective agencies also played a significant role in fugitive apprehension. The Pinkerton National Detective Agency specialized in tracking down wanted criminals, but its agents operated as employees with standardized methods, not as independent contractors. Similarly, Wells Fargo employed security personnel to protect shipments and apprehend stagecoach robbers. Star Wars later borrowed heavily from the Western tropes when creating its galaxy of bounty hunters. George Lucas deliberately modeled Boba Fett after the man with no name character. Study of 255 documented gunfighters from the frontier era found only 3 individuals remotely matched the Hollywood stereotype. These exceptions occasionally tracked wanted men when rewards were substantial, but primarily identified as lawmen or cowboys. The mythical leather-clad loner with a warrant poster makes for compelling fiction, but the historical reality featured men who worked with institutional frameworks, followed by legal procedures, and filed paperwork, hardly the stuff of Hollywood legend. Beyond the paperwork and jurisdictional constraints these lawmen faced, their pursuit of fugitives came with a price tag that rarely matched the risk. Those massive rewards you might have heard about? They existed, but were exceptional cases that created a distorted perception of the profession's financial reality. The economics tell a sobering story. Jesse James carried a dead or alive bounty of $25,000, approximately $1.5 million today, while John Wilkes Booth commanded $50,000, roughly $1.1 million in current value. These represented the absolute pinnacle of frontier rewards. The vast majority of fugitives had prices on their heads that wouldn't cover a month's expenses. Most rewards hovered around $100 or less, equivalent to about $3,000 in today's money, hardly worth potentially taking a bullet. Like players in a rigged lottery, trackers gambled their lives for prizes that seldom justified the risk. Pat Garrett's experience after tracking down Billy the Kid perfectly illustrates this financial uncertainty. Despite successfully completing one of the most famous manhunts in Western history, Garrett faced immediate resistance when attempting to claim his reward. New Mexico's governor, Lew Wallace, actively tried to avoid paying the promised bounty, leaving Garrett in financial limbo. The psychological toll of risking his life only to be denied proper compensation haunted many in this profession. This wasn't an isolated incident. Fugitive trackers regularly confronted payment delays, reductions, or outright denials. The physical dangers extended far beyond simple gunfights. Pursuing desperate criminals meant entering environments where ambushes were common. A fugitive had every incentive to eliminate their pursuer rather than face justice. These trackers traversed harsh, unforgiving terrain like scorching deserts, freezing mountain passes, flooding rivers, with minimal support. Their income proved wildly unpredictable. Unlike the steady paycheck of a town marshal or store clerk, fugitive trackers might go extended periods without successfully apprehending anyone. Operational expenses further diminished their meager profits. Every pursuit required front-loaded costs, horses needed feeding, weapons needed ammunition, informants demanded payment. Many trackers operated at a financial loss on individual cases. Competition intensified these challenges. Multiple pursuers often chased the same fugitive, meaning only the first to make the capture would receive compensation. This competition occasionally turned violent, with trackers confronting both targets and rival pursuers. The financial mathematics simply didn't add up. A typical tracker might spend $50 pursuing a $100 bounty, netting just $50 for weeks of dangerous work, if they survived and got paid at all. Meanwhile, school teachers, bank tellers, and common laborers often enjoyed more stable and safer income. This profession attracted individuals not because it offered financial prosperity, but because they possessed the specific skills, had limited alternative options, or used fugitive rewards to supplement primary income. The moral tightrope these fugitive trackers walked extended far beyond the financial gambles they took with each pursuit. They operated in a legal wilderness where stepping across an invisible territorial line could transform them from law enforcers into lawbreakers in an instant. They faced a patchwork of conflicting laws across territories and states with no standardized legal framework. Legitimate actions in one jurisdiction could result in an arrest in another. Every pursuit demanded tracking skills alongside extensive legal knowledge that required constant updating as territorial laws evolved. Navigating these legal minefields represented a life-altering burden, as one misstep in this jurisdictional labyrinth could end with the hunter becoming the hunted. An 1847 legal dispute in Illinois Territory illustrated this peril when tracker Samuel Pritchard legally apprehended a fugitive in Missouri, only to face kidnapping charges upon crossing territorial lines. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1793 generated the most profound moral quandaries. This legislation granted slave owners and their agents the right to pursue escapees into free states. This process required only presenting evidence to a judge that someone was an escaped slave. If deemed satisfactory, the individual would be handed over, regardless of whether they were actually enslaved or born free. Many trackers became instruments in a system designed to deny freedom. For those who consider themselves upholders of justice, their skills directly contributed to returning human beings to bondage, often on flimsy evidence. This created psychological burdens few modern Americans can comprehend. Ethical dilemmas permeated every aspect of their work. The decision to bring in targets dead or alive represented a genuine moral choice, influenced by reward, danger, and the likelihood of resistance. Social stigma compounded these burdens. Trackers existed in social limbo, despised by criminals, viewed subconsciously by lawmen, and feared by its citizens. Unlike the Hollywood portrayals, real trackers were regarded as mercenaries motivated by financial gain rather than justice. This isolation left few support systems to process their inevitable traumatic experiences. As we've seen, the gap between Hollywood's glossy depiction and the harsh reality of fugitive tracking couldn't be wider. This disconnect shapes our collective understanding of American history. By seeking out authentic historical accounts rather than accepting romanticized versions, we honor the complex truth of American history instead of its convenient myths. So thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to catch the next untamed tale from the Wild West.